Live. Buzz, 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 buzz. It's Blake's Buzz Live. Buzz, 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 buzz. It's Blake's Buzz Live. More, hate less, read comics. It's Blake's Buzz Live.
Buzz, buzz, babies.
Buzz, buzz, babies. It's the Monday after a long con weekend, and Benjamin made me do the show. No, I'm just kidding.
We're gonna lead in like that. Wow. Okay, I feel terrible.
Kidding. I have been excited. I love Ben. I love his art, and I always like to remind people that he draws with a mouse because that astounds me. And
It's right here.
that's the weapon. That's the weapon of choice, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, it's you've got your final We Are Scarlet Twilight is the finale is on Zoop, and it's doing very, very well. You know, number wise, I'm really happy for you. I kind of mentioned to him earlier. You know, I've been seeing, you know, Zoop is an interesting new new weapon in the crowdfunding arsenal,
Mm-hmm.
and but unfortunately some people have been struggling with it because you don't have the like the mailing list and you don't have the user count, you know, that like Kickstarter does. So, you know, using it sometimes is a risk, and you know, with risk comes, you know, the chance of rewards, and it looks like you lucked out in that area. Like your campaign's doing quite well.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, there are trade-offs with anything. I think the biggest thing I could say about Kickstarter is you just have so many people on Kickstarter that might see your project when they're looking at something else. That I'll say for Kickstarter, but the Zoop experience has been great for me. And I think the initial thing that drew me to them is what makes me want to stay there, and what's made me really enjoy working with them is they're comics focused. They come from other publishers. They are focused on making this a crowdfunding platform that works like that in a lot of ways, but works in a way that is more suited to what we do as comic book creators. So that's, anytime there's a choice between doing something in a very comic book way, I think I said this last time I was here about how I work and the types of things that I try to throw into the retro elements of We Are Scarlet Twilight. If there's something comic booky I can do, I'm going to do that. I think that also applies to working with Zoop in a much more, you know, I guess, business-like way. They're focused on what comic book creators like to get. They run campaigns. They're really paying attention to those things. And they have knowledge from what they had done previously. So it's been awesome to work with them.
Very cool. We got some friends in the chat. We got John Westhoff. What's up, baby? We got Cole, my co-host on Blake and Cole Read a Book, which will be live tomorrow. Yeah, we are currently live. We got David Hazan in the house. What's up, baby? The first time I didn't crust the interview. I'm not sure what crusting is, but you know, sometimes we're just not there. I guess. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't crust you up good enough, Benjamin. I hope you forgive me. And
I don't know if I should be glad or
I don't either, man.
Upset. I mean, go either
keeping
way.
it crusty, I guess, you know, buzz, and a bunch of crust. I don't know, man. It's whatever. Thanks, Cole. Okay. Oh, here we go. It's crush. Yeah. Well, you know, whatever. You know, we can't always be crushing everything. Always be crushing your ABCs. Anyways, I've been very vocal about my thoughts on your comics, Benjamin, and I really, really enjoy them, and I really enjoyed the conclusion to this arc of We Are Scarlet Twilight. It did not disappoint. The action was strong. Your art is, as always, looking great. You know, we're in a good place with Captain Lancet, and you know, I guess what I'm curious about is you know, is this it for a while, or I mean, is there going to be an arc 2? Are you gonna do like something new, or what's your thoughts going forward?
I have not quite made up my mind on that yet. I'm leaning towards going back to August, doing the second installment of that, and then jumping back into Scarlet Twilight with the next story. But it's definitely not the end of Captain Lancet's adventures. I kind of have it's like halfway written out.
Okay.
And I'm working on the cover right now for the next version of that. But yeah, there's definitely gonna be more of that. I kind of realized when I got to the end of the story, the way he wins his fight, which I'm not gonna be too worried about spoiling that particular thing, definitely left it open to, okay, you used that to win this fight, but that's not going to be a long-term solution for you. So I didn't have a concrete idea when I started what I might do for a sequel. As I lived with that ending a little bit more, I had a pretty good idea about what would be a fun way to come back to this character and see where he goes from here. And the tone's going to be very different. I've described it to a few people as it's going to be as if Crisis on Infinite Earths was written in 1945 and done in that style. So that's kind of how we're going to do it. And
Nice.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice. That's one thing about your comics, man. They are a lot of fun. I love the retro vibe you bring, but and I love that your writing has a lot of callbacks and
Mhm.
respect to to comics of old, but it doesn't read like that. It doesn't get as it doesn't get as like dense.
Mhm.
I like to try and read older comics. Like I love Chris Claremont, and even though I pissed him off at the con, and
That's right.
but like I've been buying the Chris Claremont omnibuses when I can, when I
Mhm.
had a job, and but I have this huge stack of omnibuses, and I finished the Uncanny X-Men Volume 1, but the first half of it was a struggle to read sometimes.
Mhm.
And like I said, it wasn't bad. It's just a little bit dense. It
Yeah.
doesn't, it's there, very wordy, very verbose. And there's a lot of that like Stan Lee mentality of like every comic is someone's first comic. So
Mhm.
we need to remind people what happened in the previous issue. And, when you're reading a 1,000-page X-Men tome, and every 22 pages, you're getting told about the stuff that
Yeah.
it just kind of starts to get it is a struggle to read sometimes, and it can feel textbooky kind of, but I will say that was the first half. The second half really started to flow. Volume 2 is the Dark Phoenix saga. I've read a little
Mhm.
bit of that already, so like things get better. But long story short, you guys know I love to fucking talk. Long story short is you have this like retro feel, but not retro pacing, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate that about your structure and your narrative structure. And I would like to know your dirty little secrets, Ben. Like, how do you do that? What's when you're not talking about your phenomenal art, just your writing right now. But when you're thinking about that, and you're structuring it, and you're thinking about the scenes and scene progression and panel progression and dialogue, and like, how do you walk that line? How do you make it feel? How do you make it feel old and not make it crusty? We don't
We don't want that, or maybe we
don't
do.
want that don't want that
Um,
don't want that crusty script, baby.
no, well, I mean, I really focused on, so like I go back to those golden age comics, and I want to like them more than I do. And every now and then ones are really good. Captain Marvel
Mhm.
is pretty solid. I would say more consistently than anybody else.
Okay.
Batman's pretty okay. Justice Society's tough to read. Superman's tough to read. It's real hit or miss. So I kind of focused on the experience of those comics. Like, what was I getting that kept me coming back to try them, but
Mhm.
also like what kind of made me tune out. And I didn't do that thing where you like focus groups do, where you write down like how engaged you are every page or anything like that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I was kind of mentally keeping track, like what's cool here, and I'd look at say some old Batman mysteries. There'd be some really slow parts. There'd be parts they did really well. The fights weren't that good. The
Mhm.
art was not that good. Not necessarily because it was rushed, and sometimes it was. It would be boring. And then every now and then you'd get like the title page would be almost a splash page of Batman looming over the city. He had giant letters behind him, and you'd be like, "Wow, that's cool." It has all the atmosphere, all that stuff. That this is what I like wanted this to be. So I kind of focused on the moments where those old comics were what I was looking for,
Okay.
which is sometimes pretty rare, sometimes pretty sparse, and sometimes it was solid. So I kind of just focused on those and thought like, all right, what are those moments, and was able to kind of just build the story around it, almost like I was putting together, an amusement park ride or something. Like,
Nice.
okay, how often do I want this to happen? Which is say action. What kind of contrast do I want between these kind of scenes and these kind of references? How often I'm going to reference old movies? As far as not necessarily the art in terms of the actual artwork, but the pacing of it, I would throw in a lot of pages that were like golden age, lots of panels on the page, really small, not necessarily dynamic, and then give you a big splash panel that looks like it's something more like the Ultimates. So that's kind of where I was coming at. I was like, all right, what's cool about this? Like just do those things, and also figure out once you've got those there, I'd go back in and pepper in the small panel pages that are not that fun, like not that dynamic but build. I throw in the references in the dialogue they'd use back then, the kind of silly, almost Adam West type of stuff. And so it was just like going back in and putting that stuff, kind of peppering it in where it would still work, give you a little bit of that 30s, 40s vibe, but not derail, I guess, the overall sort of roller coaster of it.
Does it help to have like a just absolutely smoking hot, like Emma Frost level villain? Just like, not that Emma Frost is a villain, but like you have like Emma Frost level sexy villain, and very like revealing clothing, and just like she really commands the page. I think. Let me just pop her in right here. I mean, it's kind of like Slave Leia, but gothy and means more business. Like, but I mean, like that, a lot of I make jokes, and but I just in general, your character designs are very strong. Just your art, like just everybody look at these, look at these 2 pages. Like every panel is this good. It never dips in quality. It stays at that heightened level. Like I love Ben's art. Like I love the characters, I love the story, but it's just like everything is just so damn pretty. And it's crazy to me that he does all this. He does the letters, the colors, everything. He's a digital artist, and he does it all on the computer, which I hear is kind of cheating, and it makes everything easier. So, I'm just kidding. But he doesn't use AI or anything, right? This isn't, no one's got like 8 fingers and 5,000 teeth in their mouth. Like he's drawing all this by hand, and just on a computer. And it's like, it's so cool, man. It's a beautiful comic. And I'm glad. Like here, let's find the numbers here. We'll just go through the page real quick. All right, so you are at I'm bad at math. You're 200% funded. Yeah, because you're double goal. Okay, yeah. We went to college. That's cool.
I went to art college. I don't know where you went. There wasn't all math going on there.
I had to take the one college algebra class, like that was required in my undergrad.
Have to do that.
So you got 317 backers. We got 3 days left. So if you guys sign up for this, you're going to get it. And also Ben is a safe back. He's been on Kickstarter a couple times. He's funded, he's delivered, he's got happy clients. All right. So like he's a safe back to do. Zoop, we've all seen Zoop do, their campaigns and stuff. They're good people. They get the products out. So there's nothing to worry about there. And then he's got, you can go digital, you can go print. The cool deal is this hardcover. He's doing the hardcover right now, which is interesting. What made you want to crank out the hardcover this go around?
A few things. I have a ton of extra material, and I'm doing a release through the direct market with Red 5, which is in previews now. If you like to get your comics to your local comic shop, you're not big on Zoop, you're not big on crowdfunding, we got you covered. You can check out previews right now and take that to your LCS. But the trade we're going to do there is going to be just the story, and traditional trade paperback, soft cover. On the other hand, I've got all this extra stuff because I guess I'm just inefficient in how I approach things, and I have a lot of extra art, or I have some cool idea, and I just draw that out. And that stuff needs a home. So I cleared it with Red 5, said, hey, could we offer something that's going to be a very different product than the trade that's going to be in the stores, different price point, but obviously a lot more content, a lot more page count, a lot more artwork, some stuff that goes into the story. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but some stuff that goes into the history that inspired the story, because we do keep, until the science fiction breaks in, I stay pretty close to actual history in this. And that stuff needed a home. I wanted to have an outlet for that. So the hardcover is just a nice thing to have. I can put all the artwork in there. I can kind of go through all the story commentary, explain all those things, hopefully give you just a deeper cut experience if you're really into the story, if you're into that era, and if you just want to know a little bit more about things that were implied and not necessarily spelled out in the main story. We've got you covered there.
Nice. It looks like I'm having trouble keeping track of my mouse here. All right, I've got Cole back on. We got he's Cole. We got the faith from Cole again, so that's good. Let's I'm gonna go ahead and give this let's give this a play. See what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put the heavy stuff right there. I knew this would happen.
How are we're streaming fine? How is this not streaming?
I don't know. YouTube has been weird lately. I've noticed that. I've had stuff like Twitter goes up and down every now and then, which I think everybody talks about. There we go. Oh my God, right then.
Oh no. Well, that video is cool. I like the music and the retro
Yeah.
text pages.
Oh,
Are good.
it's fun to put together and fun to tease some of the things that you've read in issue 4, but that I'm really excited about how they turned out. It's fun to just build up to that and get some story into the trailer. Hopefully, make you see some things you want to see how they play out.
Yeah, I won't like spoil it, but that when the new Captain Vampire's talking shit about like where's this impaler I've heard so much about, and when he just like, oh man, that was so good. Oh dude,
That was my favorite moment in the story.
I
So
feel like
I hope
that
it
was
landed.
that was amazing. Like just I was like, because like you like you almost see it coming, and then it's still because you draw it so well, like because it's paced real well. You're like he looks at the weapon, and he looks at the guy, and so like he's putting 2 and 2 together. The audience is putting 2 and 2 together, and then like and like the payoff. Yeah, that was so good, dude.
I hope it was. I was like, man, I think this worked out really good. Not to sound arrogant or something, but I'm like, dude, I think this is good. I think this works. And you and a couple other people have read it, got back to me. It sounds like it's landing kind of like it should. So
yeah,
hopefully it was a nice moment because it combines. I think the momentum I think worked out pretty good, but also it's a good way without spoiling too much about him. He's a pretty well-known character from history in pop culture, in his real identity. He's also kind of adopted a very different persona that's more Captain America-esque. And I think that moment, while being like a resolution to a big action, beat in the story, is kind of him saying who he is now. He's both of those things in a real pointed way. So I had that idea pretty late, and I feel very lucky to have gotten it and written it down before I forgot.
There's also a really good moment in 3 when he's like heading out to the final battle where you do that the old painting of Washington. It's Washington crossing the Delaware, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of you put your own spin on that. Well, I thought that was really good too.
You are the first person that got that one, I think.
No way, really?
Yeah, I've only heard from like 2 people. He might have gotten it too, but he didn't mention
like it's not like I'm a history buff. It's a pretty iconic image, like that and the like the war the other like the picture of like all the soldiers, like I don't even know what war it is, but when they're on the hill trying to raise the flag, like that's another.
Iwo Jima.
Yeah. That is just the things that have like been beaten into our minds, like through one form of media or another, right? We just see them all the time. Let's see. Oh, we got what's up, Daniel? Thanks for tuning in.
Daniel, hey,
yeah.
awesome.
I actually just noticed this as we were scrolling, and I'm really mad I missed it. This 75, like my favorite page, because I'm just a horny little bastard of your comment. I didn't realize that you were doing that splash page. Okay, I have a question. I've heard about this before. I've heard of some Marvel guy, I can't remember who it was, one of the X-Men was selling pages digitally like this, and it's the same deal, like one of a kind, like when you buy this, like you're buying this agreement that like I won't print these and sell them anymore. But like, can you elaborate a little more on that? Because I mean, it's not that like I don't trust people. I don't trust anyone, because the X-Files, I was raised on the X-Files, but there's this, what, how does that work? Is it's like an honor system thing, or it's just like you're not a sleazy con artist, so like you're gonna stay true to your word, or is there a way to monitor that and make sure that these prints aren't printed and sold again? Like, how does all that work?
Well, it was, I can take you through some of the process there. It was a idea that the Zoop team brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, hey, we know you're digital, but do you want to, like, would you be up for selling prints of this stuff like original art, kind of to, fill that, what that usually is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, do people want to do that? I wouldn't think so. In fact, I've seen a lot of conversations about original art where they don't even like when the inker inks over blue line instead of the actual pencils.
Oh, really?
So I just thought, it never occurred to me to do it. And they were like, no, people are into it. So I said, well, yeah, absolutely. I'll dig up some pages that I think would be awesome, to do that with, and let's do it. And they all went pretty fast, to be honest. I was a little surprised when they told me that there was an appetite for that stuff out there. And then right away, those ones went. So they were clearly right. And that's, again, one of the benefits of working with them, and something you're not going to get from Kickstarter. These people are dialed into what comic readers want, and have paid attention, been running these campaigns and seeing what works out. So
these aren't NFTs, though.
No, they're not NFTs.
They're not non-fuckable titties, or what, non-fungible tokens, or whatever they're called. I think non-fuckable.
Both of those are good. Non-fungible tokens, but yeah. No,
it's different than that. It's because they're getting like a printed real thing, right? Not a make-believe nothing that
no, they're getting
borrowed money from your dad who owns a
it's going to come with
dealership or whatever.
Certificate, and there's also no other high-res version of that artwork out there. So
okay.
I mean, I have it, and it's in vector, so it could be, I could print it on the side of a building the way I would do, and that's one of the reasons I work digitally like that, because I can scale things up and down, change the line weight in a way that really works. If I need to make adjustments to character sizes, the way the panel works, I want to make more room for dialogue, something like that. It lets me really, one of the great things about being an artist and a writer, if I am a writer in any way, is that I can make adjustments. I can say, oh, well, let's move this dialogue here. Let's make more room for that there. So it is an honor system, and I won't go out there and give people high-res files to print. I promise I won't. My Bible is somewhere around here, but I'm not sure quite where it is. I'll put a video up. I'll swear on it. But yeah, that's the thing, is we're gonna have a really nice print of it. We're gonna have that certificate, and there's no other high-res version of that out there. There's the JPEG that you were showing on screen, which is not gigantic, not printable.
Yeah,
and that's it. So that's pretty much how it works. And I was, again, this was something I would never have thought to do. The team at Zoop said, hey, do you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, sure. If people want, absolutely, I'd love to do it. And as far as my original art goes, I was reading an interview with Eric Larson probably 15, 20 years ago, where he was giving advice to an aspiring artist. He said, get original art, or get a high-res scan of original art, because there's things you're not going to notice in the way that you need to notice when it's colored, when it's, you really need to get in there. You need to see what effects they're getting by whiting stuff out, what they're doing with a pen, what they're doing with a brush. You're not necessarily going to get that from the final version. So I love going on heritage auctions and just getting original art scans to look at with great artists that I'm inspired by, because you can really get in there and see what they're doing. So it has all that in these prints, but obviously it's not the actual original art. I definitely don't want anybody to be confused about that.
Yeah. I think it's cool because I don't think I think digital artists are just as talented as, you know, whether you do pen and paper or whether you draw on a computer or tablet or whatever you do. Like, I mean, the ability still has to be there. You know, it's not like doing digital draws it for you. Now, I mean, doing digital, you have like, you know, if you make a mistake or something, it's a little easier to clean up,
Oh yeah,
you know, and stuff like that. And then you're never going to spill a bottle of ink on your page, right? Like we've
Mhm.
seen some people do on accident.
Or on your clothes or on
Yeah.
your desk.
But I mean, you know, conversely, like, you know, there are well, I mean, you don't use one of those like weird tablets or you know, but
No.
like, I mean, I've seen so many like horror stories of like people have driver issues or your computer breaks,
Yeah,
you know, so,
yeah,
so there's things that can go wrong in the digital realm too. But you know, I don't see any, you know, one's not better than the other. I don't think, you know, as long as like cool comics are being made. But I like that. I love art, right? And I only have one comic page. It's a Ninja Turtle page by San Luco for
Hmm,
like TMNT 50 or 55. I can't ever remember. Um but I mean, that's, you know, that's one of the things I spent a lot of money on this weekend was I got some cool remarks. I had some
oh, cool.
I got like some David Mack and Jimmy Palmiotti did a remark for me in a
Oh,
Daredevil
awesome.
book. And yeah, like right when I got to the con, because you know I got it there early every
That's
day.
why you got there early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and
Alright, cool. Good thinking.
with the first day, Friday, there was no like there was no one at their tables yet. And so
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh my God, Jimmy and Amanda, what's up?" And like we all hopped in line and I was like, "Hey, I want a remark." And like I'm gonna show these. I'm gonna do a con hall stream or video or something. So I've been like not showing what I got yet, but Jimmy like spent some time on it and like took his whiteout pen out and after and did some highlights on it. And
Cool.
so he did one side and David Mack did the other. And like that was amazing. And Maria Wolf did a really cool Echo remark for me. And then I had David Mack sign it because he created Echo. I got some cool shit.
Yeah.
Patrick Gleason did something for me too. And so did Phil Hester and Andy Parks. Like it definitely pays to be everybody's favorite press person. I'm not everybody's favorite, but people do like me. And so like, you know, I got some cool stuff because people respect me for some weird reason or another. So anyway, but I'm really excited to show all that off. But yeah, I love art, but unfortunately it's you know, expensive. And I mean,
Yeah.
like I like Pat Gleason had some like beautiful pieces for like his little sketches were like $300 to $500 and they were
Oh,
like beautiful and worth every penny. I
yeah.
just didn't, you know, I didn't have that. I watched Freddie Williams draw for a little bit and like take his like shading markers out and do, you know, and
Mhm.
I was like,
Oh, yeah,
wow.
he
But
was nuts with those in those Ninja Turtle versus
dude,
Batman comics. He's all over
yeah,
that. Mm.
yeah. And he was drawing some of them like on, I was like peeping over his shoulder, creeping on him, like, wow, dude.
Fun fact about Freddie Williams, he did a comic probably early 2000s called War God
Really?
from a publisher called Chimera that I don't know that it ever went anywhere.
I
And
mean, I've
then
never heard of it.
yeah, he went on to do Robin. At the time I started, they contacted me about doing more War God, so I did 4 issues of that, and he was the guy on it before me.
Oh
And actually,
wow.
I think I sent him a few samples when I was like 2007 or 8. He gave me a really nice critique, and when
Nice.
he was doing, it's when he was on Robin and I think Flash.
He
Uh,
did that at the con too. He was doing he was doing portfolio reviews for people.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
he seemed like a very nice guy. But I think when I launched this campaign, somebody was like, "Hey, did you do War God back in the day, like after Freddie Williams did?" And I thought, "Wow, that goes back a ways." And I don't know how on earth anyone ever would have gotten their hands on one. But
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
gonna have to. Well, yeah, I guess I could try and look it up. But yeah, I've never heard of it. I don't. You always think you know a little bit about comic books, and then you find out you don't know a goddamn thing, right? It's just,
no,
there's so much out there. You can't keep up with everything. You're my favorite, David. Sorry, Benjamin. I love you too, but David is on. He's just a special guy. But yeah, it's art is amazing. Back to like what we were actually talking about, but you all know that I go on tangents any chance I can get. But art is very cool. And I like this idea that if you are a digital artist and you do have fans that want your artwork, that want to frame it, that want to hang it up in their house, like this is a cool idea that like, yes, it's a print, but it's a singular print. You said it comes with a certificate of authenticity and stuff too. It's
Yeah, it
going to have
does.
like a cool deal like that. So yeah, like I dig that. Like I think that's cool. I think more people should think about doing it. That's sometimes, I mean, I'm sure you can, like, you can sketch and remark and do stuff too if you go to
Yeah,
a
yeah.
con, but
If I
there's
have my glasses, which I'm embarrassed to wear.
but so I think it's a cool way for you guys to both make a little bit of extra money and make your fans happy. I
Yeah,
think that's cool.
yeah.
So I'm glad Zoop talked you into doing that. I've heard they are really, as you mentioned, they're comic focused, but they're also very creative focused, right? Like
Yeah. Oh,
I've
yeah.
heard they kind of go out of their way to Nick Pitara, like when he did Axe Wielder
Mhm,
John with them, like he had such great things to say about them, and why he chose not to do Kickstarter again and stuff, and he had a $200,000 campaign with them too. But
mhm,
he had a great time with them, and talked to me about how just like how open they are to his ideas, to
mhm,
bring him ideas, how to try and make the campaign better. It's just like great communication, good feedback, and just like they're always trying to like make your guys' life easier, which
mhm.
during any crowdfunding campaign is worthwhile, right? Because even if you're used to it, even if you've done a few of these now, like they're still stressful. It's even you got to wait to get goal, right? And then when you get goal, then it hits, and then you're like, well now we got to do the thing, we really got to make it happen. So it does turn into a stressful experience, and then you got to do your own press and things like that. So was that your experience too, or did you kind of feel like that?
Oh, yeah, I feel like you just took the words out of my mouth. I can confirm every single word of that. They
Nice.
are exactly that. They're focused on a lot of practical things. They also have some good comic ideas. Not least of which is what we were just talking about, the original art. That's something that would never have occurred to me. They also they'll be like, hey, here's what we were thinking for stretch goals. What do you think about that? That was great to have. Even things like, oh, I was going to do this update now, or I was going to do this update Wednesday. They're like, actually, Monday at 3 o'clock would be best. They know all these things. They've
Yeah.
done a lot. It's not a complete science, but they've been through this a lot. They've noticed patterns, and that's just an amazing thing to have. At your with people that will communicate. Like you said, they're great in communication. They'll let you know all that. They'll say, no, actually, why don't you do that now? I'm like, oh, yeah, cool, we'll do that. The in creative side, they're comic people too. Geek out about like, oh, this run or that run, all that stuff. It's really great. So, and the biggest thing I'd say, just logistically, or what might be, a value to people backing it. On issue 3, I had a lot of stuff going on, some family stuff, and I was much later than I wanted to be or planned to be, and really looked at. Okay, I was thinking of making some changes, but after that, I'm going to prioritize that. I need to find a way to do this faster.
Hmm.
With them planning the campaign, they have relationships with printers. They know how shipping's going to work, where it's going to be, as much as anyone can. The fact that they're out there doing that math while I'm drawing the book,
Mhm.
I was done with this book about 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
That's never happened in any of my campaigns. No matter how far I am ahead when I start I pretty much have to do the campaign, and more significantly, the campaign planning, and then I have to get to actually getting around to producing the book after that. So that was a huge boon. The fact that I was not even done with the campaign and the book was finished was just awesome.
Yeah,
So
but that feels good.
one of the greatest things I can say about working with Zoop is that's why I was able to do that.
Now, one thing that I was kind of curious about, you have fans, you have an audience that's following you, and they were following you on Kickstarter. And now with when Kickstarter, you get everybody's emails, right? So that like
Mhm,
you can send updates through the old campaigns, for
mhm,
people that may not have backed the new one yet. So like all your previous backers, you can send a message to,
mhm.
or remind them. And they get the Kickstarter emails as well. And as sometimes you get too many Kickstarter emails, which I mean, I feel like
I get a lot.
yeah, it gets crazy sometimes, man. Like things get lost. I miss a lot of digital copies because of it, just because I just get like I'm just enshrouded in Kickstarter emails. But yeah, it's also a good thing too, because I've gotten those emails where like, oh shit, I forgot to back this, or I thought I backed it, or or oh, I haven't like, this guy was on the show before and I haven't shared this campaign. He probably thinks I'm an asshole and hates me now or something, like, and so the emails also do help, even though there are a lot of them sometimes. But what did you see now? Obviously not now, right? Because like we mentioned before, we did the math. It was very hard, but I managed to do it 200% funded, a little over 200% funded, 200,
a little over, yeah,
201.87%. If my calculations are correct, I'm totally guessing. I'm not calculating anything. But initially though, like was there ever a struggle with like not having that email list, not having that way to communicate with previous backers and stuff? Like did you worry about any of that, or were you able to send kind of buzz emails out and say, hey, I'm on Zoop now and come over here?
Yeah.
Like okay,
yeah, so I was able to do that. And it's I hope no one feels that was underhanded or anything.
No, a lot of people do it. You're good. Like that's that's not
and
bad.
there's still business to wrap up on 3. I mean, those copies went out a long time ago, but there's a lot of people that I think filter out their Kickstarter emails because there's so many of them, like you mentioned. So I still, in fact, I had somebody today saying, hey, where's my digital copy? Like, I'm like, dude, I've sent messages about that out like so many times.
Was it me? I'm so that asshole all the time. I've sent so many. Well, because some people send links that expire, and it's like, come on.
Mine are always permanent, but
nice.
or semi-permanent.
That's why you're permanent in my heart, Benjamin, because you get it.
I appreciate it. That's the goal. That's the goal. But yeah, the people say, hey, I didn't get this, and it's because they're blocked, and a lot of times they won't even get that message that I say, like, hey, go here. It's here. It's been here. I had to track one guy down on Twitter and say, because he kept posting on the page, like, hey, I still don't have my thing. I'm like, dude, I've messaged you. I've commented here.
Oh man.
Not that I'm mad about it. I mean, hey, I just want to get everybody their books.
No, you want to make people happy, right? It's crowdfunding campaigns are very, I want to say incestuous, but they kind of are though, because like everybody's all up in everybody's business, right? And if one person starts saying like, I never got my rewards, I never did, like that can lead to a big problem, and that can lead to like some rumor milling, and then people can kind of pile on you, and then people see that, and then maybe the next campaign people are like, oh, I remember, like did he not fulfill that? It's like weird shit can happen if you don't make your people happy. So it's very important to like want to make your people happy, and if you're trying to contact them and they don't get your correspondence, then that's stressful.
At least everyone else can see me responding to it. It's not their fault. I think it's just, I mean, at work I've got clients that don't get half my emails just because the IT departments, I think IT departments get in more trouble for letting some malicious stuff through than they would get in trouble for blocking half the legitimate stuff. So that's what they do. They just block half the stuff. And they're like, hey, did you get this email with that thing you really needed? Like, no. Well, that was like Tuesday. That's just how it is now. That's a pretty normal part of, I think, everyone's online experience. So it's not anybody's fault, but I'm happy to, I just try and be, if I see a thing like that, I'm going to post like, hey, I'm trying to get this to you. It's done. It's there. It's been there. It's going to still be there. At least if I can't get in touch with them, everyone else is going to see me trying to, is the way I look at it. And Daniel, you're right.
You have to fulfill. You start. So it is like I felt weird about calling it incestuous, but it really is like everybody's got their fingers in everybody's buttholes, and like if you gotta get the fingers.
We don't actually do that.
No, well, it's figurative. Figurative fingers, figurative fingering, ladies and gentlemen. That's what crowdfunding comics is. Figurative fingering with love. Anyways, sorry. I've done
terrible vocal exercise.
Hey, I sound
Daniel
good.
Calvin, by the way,
sound all soft and creamy. Wow. Okay.
Daniel has a great book called American Dreams.
He does.
Very much in the same playground as Captain Lancet and the team.
I thought I had.
Very cool looking stuff.
Here I know. Is this This is so professional. I knew it was like sitting over here. I was like, I have it somewhere. Anyways, yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Daniel and doing a good job fulfilling. Also shout out to Daniel for getting it picked up by a publisher from Band of Bards, but still making sure his backers got the product first before it hit the direct market. I've been in a couple instances where that wasn't the case, and that it kind of is a kind of not a good feeling, you know. I won't say the campaign name, but there was one where I got it digitally, and the shops got the comics before backers did, and the digital usually, you know, usually the digitals go out first, right? As soon as the digitals are ready, they send them out. This campaign didn't do that, and I got a review copy from Image before I got my digital copy I paid for.
That's not
and
good.
I sent a message about, and then I got like a guilt trip about it too. Like the creator was like, oh, well, you know, I have like a million things going on. This is my first campaign. Da, 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 da. I was like, which I also thought was weird because this was for a volume 2 of a book. But, you know, I was like, what, you know, I wasn't going to, I was like, okay, like just as long as I get it, you know, like, and I wasn't posting on the comments in the thread. I sent a message, right? Like I wasn't like publicly blasting. And even now, like I'm not saying the name of the campaign, you know, and I don't like to do that, but it is a bummer when, you know, my friends and people that have been on the show and people I respect the hell out of, like when I see their campaign struggle, and because you know, less people are going to Kickstarter because they hear these horror stories, or because anthologies are so hard to fund right now because, you know, some people shit the bed and took the money and ran and did some shady stuff, and you know, these problems ripple out into the Kickstarter community, and because it is a smaller community, you hear about these problems, right? And so you guys are already having to, you know, combat against the higher premium cost, which you guys do with, you know, quality of product, right? Like, you know, cardstock, paperweight, these, you were getting physically better comics, but you know, that's, people still think about that a lot. Actually, I went to a panel this weekend with Jimmy Palmiotti and my enemy Chris Claremont and Kevin Eastman, and they actually, it was kind of weird that Claremont was on the panel, but I think just because he spent so long in the industry and like he's seen the goods and bads of it, much like Jimmy Palmiotti, also just like Kevin Eastman. But they were kind of talking about like the ifs, thens, and nows of like comic book publishing, and like things have changed and the problems that are, it was a really, I went to 2 panels this weekend, and they were both like really eye-opening and interesting, and the listening to those guys like tell stories, and they some of it's kind of sad, but they, like Jimmy Palmiotti can make anybody laugh, you know. But anyway, like they were talking, and I asked a question, and I asked, you know, I was like, in today's day and age, you know, where, you know, and it's dangerous for indie comics, you know, like not just in Kickstarter, but like, you know, we're seeing publishers file for bankruptcy. We're seeing, you know, threatened, you know, people aren't getting paid. There's no money, and they're, you know, these, and then the books don't come out, and then you got to fight for the rights to your books, and you don't, you know, and then they get like left in limbo, and you never know what's going to happen. And that's everybody. The answer to that now is like, go to Kickstarter, do it yourself, make your own money, make your own future, you know, do your own thing. And, you know, I asked these guys what they thought and how they combat against the higher cost of Kickstarter, and to lure your audience into paying that premium. And Jimmy Palmiotti, like, basically said it, and he was like, you know, I do like 3 or 4 Kickstarters a year. He's like, so if you buy all my comics through Kickstarter, you're maybe spending $100 less if you do digitally. And he was like, whereas like if you follow another big 2 writer and you buy all their comics that they put out in a year, you're probably going to spend more money than that, or around the same price. Like, you know, and so he compared it to that. But then he also talked about, he was like, you know, my products don't come equipped with moisture wrinkles. You know, you're getting cardstock covers, and I get like great variants from people. And he's like, and I pay my team, and I pay them early, and like I pay them well. And, you know, and he was talking about, at the end of the day, he was like, I keep my people happy. And he, like, the people he employs and his backers, and he's like, that's very, very important to them, and he keeps them happy with, you know, with back matter, with bonus stuff, with stretch goals, and, you know, with prints, and, you know, stuff like that that everybody, so many people do on Kickstarter. And it just, it didn't, I knew these things going into it, right? But he made me think about it differently, about how, like, why you guys do, prints and bookmarks and trading cards or coins and, all these little items. It's not just, it's not just because, like, you think a coin is cool, but it's you are literally trying to, like, come up with ways to make your backers happy, to make them feel important, to make them, to give them, bonuses to, why they're paying this extra money, why they're part of this comic book creation process now, which is different than the direct market, scenarios where you're going into a shop and typical comic purchasing. So yeah, he said it a lot better than I did. But it's a big deal, making people happy, right? And that's something that you want to do. And unfortunately, like we mentioned, if you don't, you're going to hear about it, and other people are going to hear about it. And these, like I said, these problems ripple out, and they get bigger if they're not addressed and stuff. But you've always been good, Benjamin. Like, you do regular campaign updates. You're very communicative. You do these shows. You come out. You are very good at putting yourself out there, which is good marketing, good branding. And also you're just like a good, honest creative. And I think your audience knows that, and I think that's part of the reason why your Zoop campaign has done well, is because, like, people do love you, and people love your product, and they will follow you wherever you go. And I hope you know that. And I hope you kind of got a sense of that, because you are a really good dude, and you're extremely talented. And, I just want to put that out there.
Thanks. No, I try to be. And I think that's, to piggyback on what you're, relaying from what Jimmy Palmiotti said, it's a similar experience to following a creator through the direct market, maybe meeting him at cons. It's a little bit of a different thing here. And I think that what we have to do in Kickstarter and crowdfunding, not Kickstarter, I mean, just crowdfunding, and through Zoop, is play to the strengths of that. And I think it's, I don't always have quite as much time as I would love to be able to talk with people, but I mean, I sit here and draw this thing all by myself. I want to hear from you. I don't want to not. I'm in a vacuum. I would like to talk about, if you don't like how this comic ends, I'd love to hear about it. I mean, whatever. That's cool.
I would too. Like, what kind of dog shit, like, things do these people read if they don't like this ending? Like, what? I don't know what else they could want. Because, like I said, the arc ends really well, but you also do that smart thing where it ends and it feels good and it feels like a whole, but you have enough left to where, like, you could come back to it. I assumed you would want to come back to it, because I feel like this is kind of your baby. Like, this is your superhero, right? This is your vampire superhero. And it's so, I remember the first time we talked, right? Because you've been on my show three times now, I think. And the first
five,
time,
I get the jacket.
There's a jacket. There's a hoodie. You get the hoodie.
Oh, but it's gonna be Chiefs color. I don't know if I can do it.
Well, there's various shades of Buzz. No, but the first time you came on, I couldn't talk about him being a vampire, because that was like how how it ended. It was kind of a twist, like one of the bigger twists in issue 1. And so it was like, I had to, like, baby step around it. And then the second time we could kind of be like, oh yeah. And then, and like this time, like, it's like, it's fully realized. We know who this guy is. We know his backstory and the lore and the mythos you've built up around him, and how you've used some even history of the real world. And you're
gonna learn something here. So there's that too. But this is definitely one of my science fiction series. August is probably more my baby than this one. But
really?
I love them both. I didn't exactly have a good idea about how to continue Scarlet Twilight after this, although I always knew it was going to end with that sort of, like, extra, maybe this isn't resolved thing. Just because there was no way he could also handle that at the end of the story as well. But it just sits up in your brain sometimes, and it marinates, I guess, with other things. And then, I'm like, well, if we kind of do a Crisis thing, but in the style of the old 40s comics, that would be cool to see.
Yeah.
You could cut through so much of the really boring exposition in Crisis. I want to take that back. Like those remarks. There's a lot of exposition that is not what we're used to in modern comics.
Yeah,
I love Crisis on Infinite Earth. Wolfman's, obviously a legend. But there's a lot of tools I think I have from those old Golden Age comics that could actually make that a little faster while also seeming more retro, and get the pacing of it to something that's probably more akin to Game of Thrones or The Sopranos, but also, we're not going to sit and listen to Pariah talk about stuff for a little bit too long. We're gonna keep moving, because in those old retro comics, they would just be like, and then they went here and now they're there, and you don't have to see them getting in the car and going there, because that's boring. There's a lot of good tools those old comics had that let you do that let you get to the good stuff without really cutting any big corners. And I think that's novel enough to see these retro tools used again, that it's actually fun. If I cheat and just say I have a panel saying Captain Lancet went uptown, you don't need to see him get in the car and drive up there and get stuck in traffic and then take this way around, and then there's a way back on this street. That's a good tool, and it's one of the great things about these old comics is they did have a lot of cool things that they were trying to figure out that worked pretty well, that I think we've gotten away from a little bit. So I actually was not as retro as I wanted to be in We Are Scarlet Twilight. And I think that was the right move for this story. I've described it as, this is kind of like Rocky 1, where it's you want to see if he can win the fight. You sort of hope he can, but you also, the main story point is like, who is he? Can he stand in there? Can he be tough? Can he take those hits? Is Adrian going to show up at the end, even if she doesn't like to go to fights? Those are the real suspense points we have in Rocky 1. And in Rocky 4, which I'm not knocking, it's probably the greatest movie ever made. We just want to see if he beats the Russian or if he doesn't beat the Russian. Yeah. I kind of know he will. You just have to shift your suspense points once you've established that initial, like, who is this guy? What's he stand for? What's he think? And that actually, while it was initially why I didn't know what to do with a sequel to Scarlet Twilight, it became kind of actually like, well, that's why it would be cool to do, because you can just concentrate on a little bit more plot, a little bit more who's going to make it out of this, because not everyone will. And to also play with other things about comics we've seen, but not seen in this way. And actually, if you don't mind, if I share my screen, I can show you some stuff about that.
Yeah. I'll say yes when you.
I was working on this right before.
Let's see. There you go.
So this is in progress.
Ooh.
This is the cover for the first issue.
What program? What program do you use? What is this?
It's called Expressions. It's probably older than you, dude. It's like from 19. I'm sorry. It's from 2001, I believe.
Okay.
We had it at our old studio.
Thanks. I was born in '85, but that makes me feel good.
And it's old. But it's something we got at the illustration studio I worked at when I got out of college. Nice. And when that place closed down, and I bought some of the software and equipment off my old boss, I had really gotten used to using this program. Thankfully, it's continued to work on every computer I've gotten in the meantime. So that's the program. And it was actually a pretty cool drawing program that Microsoft bought, I think, to try and compete with Flash, which is also gone now, because they had some pretty cool vector drawing tools that I found really useful. But I'm kind of going through and just filling in. I came up with this layout, drew all these guys out, started moving them around to where I liked them, and all that stuff. And I've been working on this file where I just have a huge attempts at characters that some work out and some don't. And when I get one I really like, I throw them into the main layout. So that's what I've been doing with the sequel. And I think
nice. Are you changing his suit too? It looks maybe
not Captain Lancet's, but this is interesting actually. So my wife, when Midjourney first got in the news, just went to mess around on there. She put in some prompts from my comic, and I think it was like Dracula superhero Art Deco, and she got this back and sent it to me.
Oh wow!
Like, dude, some of those guys are legitimately cool. I might use them at some point. So I think they're going to be. These guys might be I'm not sure if they're going to be their own guys or if they're going to be the Captain Lancet of like Earth 33. But they were cool to see. I really liked whatever the machine spit out here. So
that's great. You're one of the first artists I've seen like say, "Hey, this is kind of cool." No, who else? Brian Edward Hill's been messing with it for
Mhm.
like real, but his he does a lot of photography work, and he's
Okay.
been
Yeah.
doing it to like make fake people and they look real, right? It's getting
Mhm.
better. I used to, I don't know a lot about it. I just know like a lot of the my artist friends or friends of the show like didn't like it,
Mhm.
and were voicing their opinions about it. And the idea of kind of like not asking permission to like take your work and upload it to their
Oh, yeah.
database, like
That's
I see that that's kind of shitty. But what I've been using lately is Adobe Enhance, which is free,
mhm.
and that's using AI to fix audio. And so
Oh.
it's like you upload it can't be more than an hour long. So like for my podcast, because my podcasts run long, I have to split the audio file in half, and it takes about 10 minutes for each half audio.
Mhm.
And it's what I've been using to clean up the audio for the con mini interviews.
Mhm.
And it cuts out the ambient noise. It every now and then it'll do something kind of funky. Nothing terrible, but I found out that it's using AI
Mhm.
to clean up the audio and like see how you sound, and then fix it throughout the stream.
Wow. That's
And so I
awesome.
was like, well, shit. I was like, I'm part of the problem, I guess. But again, like it's not, it's fixing audio.
Yeah.
It's not replacing my voice with somebody else's voice that may sound better for the situation, right? That was stolen from other podcast recordings or something or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's really cool and it's free. And I'm really scared it's gonna not be free soon. Like I feel like they're like testing it and people are gonna start
Yeah,
liking it.
they
Because
might
like
do that.
Adobe and free, like that, those two words don't go
Yeah.
together
No,
ever.
your concern is well founded, but yeah.
So yeah,
Uh,
it's when I start relying on it, right, it's going to be like, oh yeah, this, you need to pay for it now. But yeah, anybody who's watched any of the con interviews I've posted, the audio doesn't sound terrible. Like when I listen to them, like the new
mhm.
wireless mics I got are amazing. And everybody thought I was like super professional at the con. Like when I was handing them these microphones, I was like, all right, this is for you. They were like, what? You want to talk to this microphone? Like, what are you doing, man? And so I kind of impressed some people with that too. But like the audio sounded pretty good, but everybody's walking around you and people are talking, and just there's noises everywhere. And
Yeah.
yeah, that software, and it's web based. You don't even download anything. You just go to the
That's cool.
website and upload it, and then it spits it out and you download it. And
Oh,
like it's
I've got
cool.
video from shoots with people like literally standing at a water treatment plant. So you have rushing water sounds, and they're like, "You can clean that up, right?" And I'm like, "No, no, I can't clean that up. Oh my god."
I'm not
Yeah.
a magician.
Well, that's the thing that about these tools that probably makes me the most worried is not necessarily the replacing of people. It's actually a concern. I mean, I've thought about it.
Yeah.
My biggest problem is, in my day job, there's Adobe puts these things out that makes it look like you could just cut anybody out of a background like that.
Yeah.
That no matter their focus, no matter what their hair is doing, no matter what stuff's going on or what is in the background. So they think like that's a 2-second process. It's rarely that easy.
Hmm.
My concern is usually like, oh, people are going to think, I'm cheating them. If I say no, that's going to take me like 2 hours to do, or that's going to take a lot of to fix that particular problem. I'm going to have to go in and do it, pop by pop if it's an audio problem, something like
Yeah.
that. That's generally like where that stuff gets into my life and messes it up. So
Hmm.
we'll see. I don't know. It has gotten scary good. I've seen some of those images that are like, yeah, wow, that could be crazy. And then I've seen also some stuff that I don't know that could continue to be perfectly used for a panel story, but it's doing better than it did at the beginning. So that's a little
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
But
It's evolving very quickly, I feel
yeah,
like.
yeah, sure is. They fixed the fingers. I don't know what's next.
Yeah, the fingers and teeth are good. It's whatever. I
Yeah.
used it to, I've made a fake profile. I've made myself an AI girlfriend. We've had,
No.
we're gonna
How's that
upload.
going?
She's already tired of me. So
Happens to all of
I didn't program her good enough.
us.
What's up, Jared? Thanks for tuning in. Before we get back to this expression suite and what
Mhm.
you were initially talking about before I made it all about me. I am interested in this. So like a lot of people like these fulfillment centers if you can afford it,
Yeah,
right? But now Zoop kind of handles that for you too, don't they? Or
yeah,
do
they
you
do.
or do you have to handle the shipping and stuff?
There's probably a few things I'm going to either have to ship to them, or it might make sense for me to ship directly to backers.
Okay.
Those are not necessarily the primary things.
Okay.
They might be some of the older copies of issues 1, 2, and 3 I have. If I'm going to remark any of them, any of that stuff,
Okay.
I'll obviously need to do one way or the other, whether that's going to them or going to the backers directly, which is it's going to end up being whatever just whatever makes the most sense to do.
Nice.
But yeah, they handle that, and that's the great thing about. I was working with a team at Kablam earlier, so they do the printing and the fulfillment all in one house, which is really what enabled me to be able to do this. I do the
Cool.
entire comic myself, writing, pencil inking, color, letters, everything. So to take that to do the fulfillment on top of that, I think just would have been a little bit too much.
Did you
Um,
do that for the previous campaigns, or did you use a fulfillment center?
Well, I use Kablam. So they
Okay.
print it up and I send them the backer information and they just send them rather than send everything to me and I send it to them, to the backers, they just send it right to the backers.
Oh, cool.
It's a great service too. But Zoop can do a little bit different scale, which is great.
Hmm.
So the printing costs are a little bit different, a little better, and they're going to handle that for this campaign.
Interesting. That's cool. Yeah. So I mean, anything that can make crowdfunding easier for you guys, I think helps, because I do know it does get stressful, and I guess for like for new creatives too, like that may be good. Like if you're like
Yeah.
new and anxious and worried, like it seems like Zoop might be a good fit to like kind of like walk you through it with the baby steps and help you out in that regard too. It sounds like maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably good. Just what I found great to have them as a resource. Just they can tell me, I can't call somebody up at Kickstarter and shoot the breeze about what works and what doesn't in a
Mm,
campaign, what people like to see, be that subject matter or rewards specifically. They know that and they're like, oh no, this is cool. Well, that's not such a great idea. We've seen that not work before. Why don't you try this instead?
okay.
Uh, it's just an amazing resource because they've done that and they want to talk about comics. Kickstarter, I don't know, maybe if you do gaming or you're Brandon Sanderson, they'll sit down and say, here's what we can do, man. We really want to make this work. Uh, the rest of us don't get that from Kickstarter, but Zoop
Yeah,
does that, and that's what's
I
great.
gotcha. Nice, nice. So they make you feel special. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so back to this possible crisis on the vampire superhero crisis. I see some planets colliding, or maybe the
Man,
moon colliding with the Earth. Like,
yeah, they have a lot of problems they're dealing with. Yeah, so, there's gonna be some really uh, there's gonna be some guest stars at the end of issue 1 that you will not expect to see here.
nice.
They're characters you probably have seen before. I hinted at it in issue 3. Nobody's figured it out yet who they are, but I think one of the good features of a good big, sort of a big 2 style crossover is you have some characters show up that you never thought were going to be a part of the story. So I'm going to try and do that here as well, and that's something I kind of want to do in the campaign. Is what I would like to do is start the campaign. It's going to cover the entire series and do the releases digitally as I have them done. Talk about it with people, hopefully interact with people who are liking the story, answer some questions about what went into the story, where it's going. Just be a lot more interactive as the book's being produced, and then do the shipping. We'll ship out the physical copies or the collection, and you'll have the choice to get that at the outset. I think is what we're going to do. So it'll be
Nice.
a much more interactive experience, but also one that's a little bit. I'm hoping it'll be monthly. I don't know that I can do that all by myself, but where it's going to be something of a regular comic shop experience where you get done with the issue, you talk about it, you wait for the next one to come out. I want to try and do that a little bit with the crowdfunding, type setup here. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice. Well, that's exciting. I'm stoked for more. Like I'm glad. I know you got other stuff you want to do and other stuff going on, and like I I just you know, I'm stoked for like new comics you might make too. But you did really get me into We Are Scarlet Twilight, and
Oh,
now I'm
cool.
just now like I'm just always gonna want more of it now, and it's your fault. So
Well,
you know.
there's more coming. So you know, I wake up one day and I'm like, oh, I want to do more August. And then I'm like, oh, I kind of want to do this. You know, like it just goes back and forth. So we'll see. We'll see what wins out in the end. It might be this beginning, you know, mid to late this year. I might try and do August, and then do this, and then go back to August. So we'll see.
Now we've mentioned August several times. We haven't told the audience, anybody. They may know about it, but you know, to be polite hosts, you know, we do gotta let people know. So the August Purgatory Underground is your other comic, and there are 4 issues out, and it is you've got that at Red 5.
Yeah.
So that's got a home. It's got a publisher, which is very cool. Red 5 does some cool stuff. I'm glad they you know saw what you were doing and wanted to bring in. Now, do you know when the trade's going to release to this? Like, have they said anything about that?
I asked them the other day. I'm still waiting to hear back exactly on that. I know that's a little bit more of a volatile process than, say, you know, you put it in previews. They you know when it's going to happen. I think there's a little bit more gears in that machine as far as the trade, because they're doing the bookstores as well as the direct market. So waiting to hear on that. What I'm hoping to do, and this might determine which one I do first, is I would like to do a campaign for like a hardcover version of the sequel and of Purgatory Underground when the stores are getting copies as well. So you kind of have a choice between, you know, the deluxe edition with like a million different pieces of other art and commentary, or just the story. And that's mainly not to, you know, I don't want to, I'm not sure if we can do this yet. And I don't want to step on one product or another, but I also think like when you're just getting your name out there, when you're getting these characters out there and I don't have any track record. I'm also not selling you Batman. You know, I'm trying to just do as much as I can. Like some people only see crowdfunding campaigns. Some people only see stuff in the shops or on, you know, previews or Bleeding Cool. So that's, I'm just trying to cover all the bases I can, because I want to keep doing this for a long time. And you know, hopefully in it, you know, if people do get into these stories, and I hope they will, they can say, oh, now I'll check this out. I really like this. I want more. Maybe I want to go after that different version on the crowdfunding campaign, because that's probably the only place we're going to do that. Or if you're like, you know, I'm good getting it at the shops. I like having it in my hands. I like that one. That I just go to the store and get it, and I take it home with me. I just want to cover all the bases there, basically, because I know
that's a good way to do it, dude. What friends of the show and a comic I really like, By the Horns, like they are with Scout, and so Scout did their, you know, the singles and the volume 1 trade paperback and the volume 2 trade paperback, and the volume 2 trade paperback is not out yet, but so in between, you know, the new arc and the volume 2, they've taken to Kickstarter and have a deluxe oversized volume 1 now. So like, you know, you can, if you want the good edition with the back matter and the cool stuff. And they even did, I really like this. They wanted one of everybody's favorite characters. They did like a 10-page short and used that as a stretch goal, which they met really quickly. I mean, that's more work on you, right? If you're able to do that. But I mean, like, you know, you could even say, you know, you put out this deluxe hardcover and you're like, yeah, you're going to get all this back matter, you're going to get this cool stuff. And then, oh, if we make $12,000, you know, I'll throw in a 10-page short, or you know, like some kind of, you know, random off character. So there's cool stuff you can do there, right? And then on top of just like book upgrades, like, you know, spot gloss or a ribbon and, you know, things like that. But yeah, I've seen people do that, and I think people are into that and support it, and By the Horns is doing well. Like that campaign's doing well, much like your We Are Scarlet campaign right now. How many hardcover, like, do you know like how many hardcovers they've ordered? Like,
I can figure that out pretty quick. Let's see. I think we have 90 of the hardcovers right now.
Wow. So on almost one third of backers have done
90 plus 34 plus 8. So
just threw around a lot.
I didn't think there was gonna be so much math tonight, man.
I know, like
we should have planned this out.
we should have a number advisor in here with us, like a number cruncher. But no, that's cool, man. I like, you know me, I love hardcovers, and you know, I think they hold up better. I think they look good on the shelf. I like holding them, right? You know, and but yeah, it's cool. And I mean, I buy a lot of trades too, but actually lately I don't buy as many trades because I'll often go digitally for those.
Mhm.
And just to kind of, I'm running out of room, man. Like,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. I hit that a while ago.
I've only got so much space, and I've got stuff piling. You know, that's my problem right now. I'm trying to get like I want my streaming setup to look better. And especially
Mhm.
now that like the community helped me get like the new computer and stuff, and I've got like a desk and a workstation, and you know, like everybody has like these cool streaming setups and these lights and a cool
Oh
background, right?
yeah,
And I have like books stacked up behind me, and it's just like I'm like, you know,
I
I
think
did buy
that's
a
cool
green
too.
scene though. Like
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna green scene it up and just like put cool shit behind me.
All works. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing about this about back matter and extra stories, especially, is I worked on this book for like a ridiculously long amount of time, almost 9 years.
August or
August,
Scarlet?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, We Are Scarlet Twilight was like a very easy process compared to this.
really?
This story was like really long, then it was shorter, then it was shorter again. So I have like about 100 pages of back matter artwork.
Oh wow.
And I also have a about a 10 or 12 page prequel that actually still works within the larger story that I'm going to throw into the hardcover if we do it.
Nice.
Um, so there's just that was kind of the impetus behind this, and aside from just wanting to get it out there, uh, I have so much stuff. I just got to put it somewhere. It's got to see the light of day.
Now,
So
does Red
that's what.
5 or do they let you like can you do whatever you want with it? Like if you wanted to go to Zoop for August hardcover, are you able to do that, or would you have to talk to them about it? Or
I'm going to talk to them about it. I haven't. We were able to do it for Scarlet Twilight,
Mhm.
and their view has been that, at least as far as what they've seen, they don't see a huge overlap between the people that do crowdfunding and the people that do local comic shops or bookstores.
Okay.
And I think that probably is also doubly true if you're starting out, if you don't have big characters. Oh, and Daniel, thank you.
Yeah, I was about to say
Daniel's
I
a good
got you
team, man.
one. I got you one backer. So,
I
so
appreciate it,
you
man.
didn't waste an hour and 11 minutes of your
Never wasted. But yeah, I was real sensitive to talking with Red Five because they're a great team, and I've really enjoyed working with them. And I wanted to
nice.
make sure, like, when I was kind of thinking about, okay, well, we have all this extra stuff. I really would like to see it go somewhere. I also feel like probably my instinct is that crowdfunding is, if you are a bigger fan, if you are a little more involved with following the story and following me as creator, you might want some of that extra stuff. That's kind of where that probably
Yeah.
makes sense for it to exist. So I was very sensitive to be like, hey, could I create something that does not compete with what we're going to put in stores after,
Mhm.
like here, learning, okay, here's what we want to do with the trades. I said, okay, if I could create something like very different, different price point, obviously it's hardcover, a lot more pages, a lot of extra stuff. Would that be cool? And I'm really thankful they were cool with it. So we'll see if this works out the same way, because my goal is really just to, I love these characters. I love making these stories, and I think I want to get you guys into it too. So hopefully, right now my goal is just to get as much of it out there as I can. Hopefully, get people to follow it, and to see what happens next.
Definitely. And I do like August. I won't lie to you. I haven't read all 4 issues. So I'm a bad host.
Okay.
And I tried, but I didn't quite get it done. But what I've read, I read about half the trade you sent me. And I really dig this like motif of like when what happens to the soldier when the war is over, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then what happens to the soldier when he thinks the war is over and then finds out the war is not over, and then finds
no,
out
it's
that the war
not.
that he was fighting isn't really the war that he wanted to fight. There's a lot of layers to this narrative that are really cool. Like once you start peeling stuff back and like getting to know Captain August and watching him like, you know, kind of change teams and realize like, you know, I like those kinds of stories, right?
Mhm.
When you don't really know who the good guys are and the bad guys are, and that like that dramatic tension that results from that ambiguity, right? God, listen to
Yeah,
me
yeah.
sound like I'm smart. Oh, I love when I do
No,
that.
no, it's
But it's you do a really good job on that. And again, like fans of your artwork are eating a plenty with August, right? Because you're same boat. You're doing everything.
yeah.
You're
Oh
in
yeah.
here. It's that same that same level of polish that we all love from We Are Scarlet Twilight is all hands on deck in book 1 of August. And yeah, so and you can go to comic book shops and try and hunt down the back issues from Red 5, or you can order them online. You can get them digitally. It's you could get this right now. Like if you want, these 4 issues are there for you.
It's out in stores now. I think you can still order it. The trade should be out very soon if you just want to get the regular trade. The hardcover is not for certain that we're going to do that. I hope we can. And it's a matter of if it makes sense to do it, but also timing. So that's something I got to talk to everybody about. But certainly, I've liked putting together hardcover for We Are Scarlet Twilight. I generally put together so much more material than I need, and then I kind of want to have people see it. So it's good in that respect. I guess just a creative thing, but hopefully it makes sense to do. And I really, like I said, I love these characters. I have a lot more planned with all of them, and so I want to keep selling them everywhere I can, just to get people kind of on the ship with me.
You're kind of like, I love sci-fi, and I want to write sci-fi, but I when I was writing fiction and short stories, like I wrote this time travel, this like ES 3115 or something. ES is experimental shuttle, and it's about these like, it's basically what Mark Russell's writing right now, but not as good. Okay. Except I wrote it a long time ago. He's kind of like his traveling to Mars narrative, except just basically like they need these people you don't need to know how to be an astronaut, but they need a real person to sit in these shuttles and get shot out into space and be like a little guinea pig. To try and figure out where things went wrong. And it turns into a time travel deal. And what I've found with sci-fi time travel is it's a massive clusterfuck. And even when you think it's working, someone else is going to read it and remind you that everything you've laid out in this time travel narrative doesn't work for one reason or another.
I have 8 pages of a science fiction like time travel thing that I just had the idea of one morning. And it was kind of a combination of Quantum Leap with like Lethal Weapon. So this actor in like the late 60s gets drafted into Vietnam. He's all upset. He's about to burn his draft card when these guys come after him in a helicopter who have been contacted by a computer from the future that has like a real person's personality beamed into it. Tells them where to go find this other guy they need to fix the future that's going to happen. Then a portal opens up, and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger from 2003. And he's been fighting off the mutants that have taken over America. He's come back to the past to tell them they have to team up and stop something in the 60s that's going to cause it all. And I got about that far before I realized, like, this is not going to work on any level. And I'm not that good a writer, and better writers mess it up too. And I'm trying to I stopped at the cool like splash page of Arnold coming out of the portal. Come back in time to warn them about what they should do. And
I mean, this all sounds amazing to me. Like I would read the shit out of this. So I was like on board till you were like, none of it's working, because I was like, it's working better.
Well, what was going to happen is Arnold's personality gets beamed into they get a Palm Pilot from the future that he's holding, and his personality ends up in there. So he's kind of like the computer in Quantum Leap.
Okay.
And he's telling them what to do. So it's like he's the action hero, and he's like a historical figure as well, which is why I feel like I could probably get away with using him. And so he's like obviously the most physical actor of all time, but he's kind of like the science guy at the desk in this story. And it would have been, anybody's listening, steal this pitch. I'd like to see it happen. I'm just not going to do it.
Like I just, I did the not the recent podcast episode, but the last one, Declan Shalvey was on the show, and he's doing that time before time travel. And it just hit 21 issues. Right. And it's firing on all cylinders, but they travel through time, but he pretty much like, now I think they're going to break this rule. That's what it's kind of teasing. But basically they made this universal rule in their time travel narrative that like, no matter what you can do, you can't change the future. Like the future is always going to happen. Even if like you're told what's going to happen and you try and stop it, like the rules of time travel won't let you, like it will throw obstacles in your way. Like what's happened what will happen has to happen. And in doing that, they kind of fixed the time travel conundrum from the creative standpoint, right? Because that's where you fuck up, is when things change, and then you have to follow those ripples in the time stream and adjust the narrative and make it all make sense, right? That's where you falter, because it's really hard to do. And so in doing that, so I thought that was really smart. But then, like, now you can't, they did it right. So now if you do another time travel book, and then you're like, FYI, the future can't be changed, and just so you know, audience, and then they're gonna be like, that didn't happen. Get to the chopper. Yes.
I love that comment, David. That's awesome. But I think they kind of did that in the Star Trek reboot, which I liked initially, and I kind of soured on. But they
the most recent one that's like
with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto.
Oh, the movies. Okay.
Yeah, the guy, he went back, and I'm not up to current Star Trek lore with all the streaming stuff, but they went back. That guy messed up stuff, and he was after them to mess it up. But I think the real Spock was saying, like, in reality, is trying to work its way back to what it was. It's going to try and contrive to, like, Scotty is going to somehow turn up on this thing. It's going to happen.
Oh, well, shit. Maybe Declan stole it from Star Trek. He's not the great storyteller I thought he was. No, I mean, all fiction is borrowed, right? Like, I mean, it's you didn't come up with the vampire.
Who told you?
You might have come up with. I can't think of
they came up with
vampire superhero though.
Oh, no, necessarily. Yeah, I'm certainly the first of those. Definitely.
I mean, it felt pretty fresh to me anyway. But yeah, back to Purgatory. I really like it. I think you have a good eye for sci-fi, and even in Scarlet Twilight Scarlet Twilight's a little steampunky. But it's also a little, because we jump in, there's a huge jump in time, but you don't really focus on technology, right? But I also like that too. I like that you go into the future, and it's still about like mysticism. Like, I think that I thought that was a really cool move that you did in the story. But in August, it's very sci-fi. There's space travel, there's space battles, there's blaster rifles, there's cool shit, there's cool combat. And I like your commentary on, like, the grunt, right? On what you have to say about the military and the respect that you give them. I just thought that was really well done. Some people have trouble walking that line, I think. So it makes you think about war and conflict and citizenry and things like that. And like, the hierarchical aspects and control. And so you're doing a lot of cool things in August. And I can definitely tell that, like, there's a lot of love there, and there's a lot of love for the genre. Now, you are a genre fiction writer. Like, you like this. Like, what's the genre you haven't really tackled yet? Like, because like, other than like the vampire and like the blood magic, like We Are Scarlet Twilight, I wouldn't call it horror, right? It walks like a fantasy line a little bit, but you do have like, vampires obviously intrigue you. The vampire mythos intrigues you. Like, have you ever is horror ever in your mind? Like, you ever have like a spooky story you think? Because you can fucking draw, right? So I feel like I feel like if you wanted to like gross us out and do like some crazy body horror and stuff, like,
I do like body horror a lot. Good. Yeah, and I don't know how far you are in August, but there's a little bit of that.
Okay.
In a small, I wouldn't call it horror, or it's certainly not Cronenberg-esque, but a little bit of that. And that tends to find its way into my stories, because I really like to beat up my heroes. I'd say Captain Lancet gets off lighter than anybody in terms of how much damage he takes through my stories. I don't know. I'm an admirer of horror in a big way, because I don't think there's any genre that is as friendly to experimenting with the form, be that a movie, a TV show, or a comic, or a novel. it's not, I don't want to reduce it to saying it's jump scares, but there is something about horror that is so, just really grabs you.
Mhm.
And whether you're doing a psychological slow horror, if you're doing whatever, Nightmare on Elm Street, yeah, here's the bad guy sort of thing. There is so much, I guess, directing to do in the story. That's always intrigued me. That said, I've never been a big horror guy. I
Okay.
do love vampire. I don't necessarily love vampires, but I love that vampire that turns up in We Are Scarlet Twilight. Always have. That goes back to the history that's tied in with him, but
Mhm.
also what a big pop culture figure he particularly has been, from the 1930s or 1860s on.
Yeah.
The atmosphere that went along with that has always really intrigued me. Frazetta's paintings really intrigued me. Bernie Wrightson's work,
Yeah.
just blows my mind. That's kind of my entry point to that stuff. So I'm
Okay.
not going to say no to that. I feel like there's probably a detective slash horror story that would probably incorporate a lot of sci-fi in me, but we'll have to see.
That gets me excited because like sci-fi horror is one of my favorite things. Like I've
Mhm.
told this story like a million times, but my dad let me watch Alien when I was really young, and I had
Mhm.
like screaming level nightmares, and like
Oh
I
God,
and then I used to watch like sightings as a kid too. And so like a
yeah.
large part of my childhood was spent just fairly certain that at any given time in the day aliens were going to abduct me, do terrible things to me, and or like implant something in me that would burst out of my chest and destroy me. and
Mhm.
and and I, it was a real fear. And then I saw like fire in the sky, right? And then
Oh my
like
God, yeah.
before knowing that, yeah, like I love that my family let me watch and do whatever I wanted. Like when I had friends, like everyone always liked to come over to my house and spend the night because we could go to Blockbuster and
Mhm.
like rent Candyman or rent The Exorcist, right? We're in like the lower side of grade school, and my parents didn't care. But I mean, like, but then would like try and make us go to church on Sunday is a weird deal. And like
Balance it out. Yeah.
yeah, like yeah, we let them watch Candyman and Exorcist on Saturday. We take them to church Sunday morning and rinse and repeat. But like I was, my mom was so mad at my dad, like because that the alien deal, because I was having nightmares and I wanted to like sleep in their room, and I was terrified. And but now that fear now is a fascination. And like
Mhm.
one of my favorite things ever is Event Horizon, and that's
Oh
because
yeah.
it's one of the best blends of sci-fi horror since Alien, which many years later someone told me that it's a haunted house movie in space, and I was like, holy shit, it really is. And it's like you don't think about it. I didn't never thought about it like that. So anyway, I love sci-fi horror, and yeah,
Mhm.
I if you ever did something like that, I'd
Well,
be
actually,
so on
the
board.
the sequel to August takes place when he's like 70,
Oh
and
really?
it's a lot quieter. It's the elevator pitch of it is the galaxy's completely decimated. It's like The Walking Dead. You just don't see anybody else. You don't know what's out there, but bad things have happened. He's stranded on a planet by himself. Some people land there. Some monsters land there. And I wouldn't say it's out and out horror, but it's horror in the same way that maybe Predator is horror.
Okay,
Um,
that works.
there's going to be a lot of jump scares. There's going to be a lot of. My wife is a big horror fan, and she'll point out a lot of things they do in those movies to really low key disturb you to set you up for something else.
Yeah.
And that kind of sunk into me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do a little bit of that in this story. It's going to be small cast, pretty much just kind of a survival horror that takes place in kind of a Blade Runner-y decimated world.
Nice. You're singing my song, baby. I'm down. I'm down. I'm ready to go. Well, all right. So I've almost kept you for an hour and a half, Benjamin. And as always, it doesn't. It never. I could tell. I can just. You're so easy to talk to. I love talking to you, and I love your comics. And I tell people like to you know I don't just tell people that you draw with a mouse, even though I do, but I usually, it always starts off with, I tell them how like impressed with your art I am and how awesome your comic is. And they're like, oh, cool. And then I'm like, and he draws with a fucking mouse. And then they're like, what? Like, they're like a mouse, like a mouse. And I'm like, yeah, he doesn't use a pen. And like, but I hope you never do use a pen. I
Uh,
hope like,
it's too late
in
now.
the future when tablets and like AI's taking over art, and you just gotta like you know plug in your brain to a tablet and think imagery, right? And it
Mhm.
makes it make I hope you're still like using this program from the 90s and working with a mouse and doing your fucking magic, dude. Because you got it. You gotta. It's you have your workflow down, and you have your style and your voice, and you know it, and it's in you, and you know how to put it on the page, and so like never change. And again, like I really when I bring up the mouse deal, like I'm not making fun, and I'm just impressed. Like you just make really, really cool art. And I mean the stuff you have right here on the page, like you just I told Cole, my co-host, the other day when I was talking about, we were doing the show, and I do believe this. You draw big 2 level superheroes. Your art could be in a big 2 book. Your art's better actually than some of the shit that they're putting in big 2 books. Like, and it really is. And I'm glad that there's Zoop, and I'm glad that there's Kickstarter, but like I'm continuously surprised, right, that like you don't have a publisher with some of your stuff, but it sounds like Red 5 is going to work with you for Scarlet Twilight.
I'm very
too,
happy there.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been great to work with. That's I just want to get the books out, get them in the stores. I love comic shops, obviously. If that's how you want to get your comics, I want to make sure they're there. If you want to get your comics online, I want to make sure we have that covered too. So it's a little bit of a changing environment, but the important thing is that we all keep making our comics, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm always happy to when people say that they're happy with an indie publisher, right? Because that's some people, and they may be right, they may be wrong, and they may be partly right and partly wrong, but a lot of people think that it's going to get worse before it gets better in regards to like pencil down notices and publishers shutting their doors and creatives not getting paid and back pay issues and things like that, right? Like we know that there's some rough spots right now, and it's going to take a while to iron those out and even those out and get to a good place. And so when people like you come out and you're like, yeah, like I love Red 5, they treat me well, they're doing great things for me. And on the other side, like, yeah, I love Zoop, and this is a great alternative, and they're helping me, and they're there with me, and you can call people, you can talk to people, they treat you like a real person, no matter if you're if you got a $12,000 campaign or a $1,200 campaign, right? Like that, these are good things to hear. These are what I want my audience to know about, both in regards to that it's the consumer part, where we can buy our comics from these places. It's safe to buy our comics from these places. It's safe to give them your credit card number. Zoop has my credit card number on file. I've never had issues with them. So they're totally safe. They're totally legit. They're good people. And I've heard nothing bad about Red 5 either. Like people that work for them like them. I think they're putting out really cool books. I think they got cool stuff going on.
Some great stuff coming out. So
it's good to hear.
Follow them.
Benjamin, so this again, like always a pleasure to talk to you. I know your campaign's basically wrapping. You got 3 days left, ladies and gentlemen, to get on We Are Scarlet Twilight, and I can't sing its praises enough. And I've got to read all 4 issues now. Every single one of them is good. Actually, no, every single one of them is fucking great. And it deserves your money. And whether you get them digitally, whether you get the single issues individually, there's some cool variants too. Or whether you get the trade or the hardcover, like you have options to how you want to spend your money on this campaign, and whatever you decide to do is going to be worthwhile. This is a really great comic, and it deserves to be read. And it's not a superhero comic you're used to. It's got so many like fresh endeavors in the narrative, and the plot beats are wonderful and take you for a great ride. And it also like pays homage and so much respect to comics that we grew up with, or like old X-Men comics, old superhero or old Superman comics and things like that. There's a lot of great history being respected and celebrated within these pages. And Ben is a great writer on top of a great artist, regardless of what he says. He's a really, really good writer, and he knows tension, and he knows great dialogue, and he makes really great characters. And so you need to get this comic. It's very cool. You got 3 days left, and I hope you guys go to Zoop and give it a chance, and give Benjamin a chance. And like I said, go to your comic book shop, try and find some try and find some August Purgatory, because it's very cool. It's very great sci-fi, and like I said, all these the panels aren't going to let you down because he just nails them. I love Ben's art, ladies and gentlemen. I'll scream it from the rooftops. Now, Ben, this is the part where I do want to remind everybody. I know you're on Twitter and stuff, and I think you do Facebook too. But like, where's a good place to keep track of you and follow, new stuff you got going on, new releases and all that good stuff?
Best place is the Twitter account. My YouTube channel is also, I'm putting up a lot of stuff here. And what I'll do there, I'll do community posts where I just post artwork previews, but I'll also do a video every couple of days, just going through what I'm working on now. But I'll also get some old artwork that's gone into what I'm doing at the moment. So I just did a video on Shadow and what specific elements of him went into Captain Lancet. So you can kind of, in addition to just getting a look at all this old great artwork from the 30s, which I find good scans of, and kind of go through, I kind of run through a little bit about the characters, how they influence my work and how the artwork influences my work, or story conventions, or just cool things about them. Kind of just another good way to celebrate, this great art form we get to play around with and draw inspiration from. So follow me there too. You'll get a lot of good content. Hopefully kill some time and see some good artwork there too.
What's your channel name on YouTube?
I will throw that in it's some gobbledygook with my name, but I'll throw that in the chat right now.
I'll throw it up there when it pops up.
Yeah. I'll throw that in the, I need to put it in the private chat. There we go.
Okay. All right, here you go.
Yeah, if you want to hear a little bit more about what inspires me to do these crazy things, that is well, you're letting me go into it. And,
Benjamin Morse comic book art, I379. Someone else had Benjamin Morse comic book art. You had to put numbers on the end of it.
I know it did this weird thing like the other day where the channel name is just Benjamin Morse, comic book artist.
Okay.
Which I feel like describes me very well. He just sent me this thing like while I was at Home Depot the other day saying, "We've renamed your channel to this thing. Do you like it? If not, go through this." And I'm like, okay, I'm in the middle of a campaign. I'm not going to mess with anything. But after that's done, I will look into that and see if I can get it to be a little bit more, I don't know, appropriately named.
Nice. Yeah. They better not rename my shit. Like I've gotten so lucky with Blake's Buzz. It's like, if you Google me, like it all pops up, like no one else, there's no other Blake's Buzz. Actually, no, someone found, like some kid, some little asshole high schooler, like had a high school news channel and called it Blake's Buzz, but like he hasn't posted anything in like several years. So that's the only other sort of Blake's Buzz competition I found. Yes, Jared, check him out, man. He's awesome. Like you will not regret it. Like he knows a lot about comic books. He's ready to teach you about comic books, and he's ready to give you some good comic books to read. That's Benjamin Morse, ladies and gentlemen. Like in a nutshell. Also just a very kind, generous dude, and comic books need more kind and generous people, because there's a lot of jerks out there, and there's a lot of people, as we talked about with, some Kickstarter issues, and there's some, not maybe they didn't set out ready to scam you, but they're, we've all, seen these campaigns where there's been like some big issues now, and it put the hurt on a lot of other people trying to crowdfund their own comics. And Ben's one of the good ones. And so that's, you can, I'll put my name out there for him. Right. Like I'm not,
thank you.
I'll vouch for him basically. And, I don't even know. I don't know if that may hurt you. I don't know. That's a good thing or not.
Likewise, dude, you are, I try to be a good citizen of this indie comics world, because it's an awesome community we have here. And it really is like so great at that. Like all the people you had in your show, all the stuff you're doing is, I think what makes a lot of, I think we all see people doing things like that, and we're like, yeah, I want to do more covers for people. I want to do like, I want to like put more people on my, channel, or make shorts about some comic on Kickstarter that's, going on. I want to do that. And that's inspired by you and guys like you that are doing that stuff, and really just, let's just try and build this thing up. It's hard to make comics. It's hard to make, a decent living doing comics. And we're kind of, not to be too corny about it, but we are kind of all in it together. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
No,
the
it's
idea.
it's definitely like, yeah, there's the indie community is very special. I mean, the comic book community as a whole is special, but like the indie side, the crowdfunding side is very much like there's none of that like, one publisher versus the other mentality. It's
Yeah.
very much like we're all in this together. We all want to read cool comics. We all want to support cool comics. And this, as a community, I've seen us come together as a community to make projects happen that we're struggling, right? And that's a cool feeling too. And yeah, I always want people to feel welcome. And like I told at the con this weekend, I got 5 minutes with Kevin Eastman, and
Mhm.
it was like a meet your hero moment, right? The Ninja Turtles
Sure.
are still very important to me, and we're them and Batman. Like that was at my childhood. I was obsessed with them, and this guy Mike Gecko, and he does this Kung Fu Lagoon comic, and he messaged me on Twitter, and he was like, "Hey man, swing by my booth, and I'll throw you some comics," And so I went and met him, and we did a quick interview, and I looked at his art's really good. He's got like this really cool Scotty Young vibe, and I said that, and he
Mhm.
got all emotional because I guess Scotty Young's his hero, and his wife was like, "Oh my god, you just made his day," and like, and it was really cool to meet him, and he was so appreciative, and I was so like he gave me some like I can't show it yet. I'm gonna wait for my con hall video,
Mhm.
but he gave me this Michelangelo Ninja Turtle piece, man, and I tried so hard to pay for it. Like I was like, let me buy this fucking beautiful art. Like it wasn't a print. Like he
Mhm.
drew it and he colored it, and it's amazing. Like I saw it walking up to his booth, and I saw it, and I was like, that's gonna be mine. And I was like, I don't care how much it is, I'm gonna buy it. And but yeah, he wouldn't let me pay for it. But anyway, he was talking to me, and I told him, man, I had just come from Eastman. Like I just talked to you. I'm
Yeah.
still shaking. And I'm still nervous even after he let me interview him in a hallway, man. Like I missed
Mhm.
our appointment because the con didn't let me in when they were supposed to.
Yeah.
And then he was like, well, I got to go to this panel. And he was like, we can do it after the panel. And then the panel went long, and they kicked us out of this room. And Kevin Eastman, who didn't have to give me the time of day at all, like
Yeah.
we went out in this hallway, and we went off like on this little side part of the hallway, and he let me set my camera and stuff up in a fucking hallway and interview him, right? And I
That's
just,
awesome.
he did not have to do that. He made me feel like I'm 1,000 feet tall. So anyway, I'm coming off that. I'm all excited. All I want to do is tell somebody about it, right? And I was like, and they're like, oh, how's your con going? And I was like, I just got to talk to Kevin Eastman. And like, oh my god, like it's like kid me is inside of me, just like screaming. And this guy, he's talking to me, and he's like, he's like, I just think it's really cool that you like came over here and did this quick interview with me and stuff.
Mhm.
And I told him, I was like, hey, I am getting lucky, and I am getting more popular, and I'm big, Marvel and DC writers are talking to me now.
Mhm.
And even though that is going to happen, and I'm glad it's happening, what I told him was like, I would not be here if it wasn't for you guys. I made a name off indie comics and off the indie community, off us doing interviews and me finding cool Kickstarters and talking about them, and people listening to me because of that, and listening to what I thought about indie comics. And I was like, if it wasn't for you guys, like I would be nothing. Blake's Buzz would be nothing. And I was like, even if like, I start doing, interviews with big two people, and like, and things get more popular and crazier. And I was like, my channel is always going to be in one way or another about the indie comics community.
Mhm.
I will never let that go. I will never like delete that from its existence. It's always going to be a crucial part of what Blake's Buzz is, because like I said, without that, like I'm nothing. I'm no one would know about me or give a fuck about me if it wasn't for the Kickstarter guys that came on the live stream, or the write-ups that I did, and stuff like that. So like my heart will always be there. But yeah, at the same time, it's also cool. Like it's, like
Yeah.
it's crazy. I never thought I could walk up to David Mack and do it and be like, you want to do an interview? And he'll be like, he was excited about it.
Yeah. That was a great interview.
And like, Pat Gleason's going to be another one coming up. Just it's really cool. Jimmy Palmiotti. We had a good 15-minute talk, and he's just so hilarious and intelligent, and it's so yeah. Like I said, of course I want to get more popular. Of course I want the channel to grow. But more people that listen to me when I do shout out a Kickstarter, more people are going to hear about that Kickstarter. So it's things will change, but I will still always, indie comics will always have my heart and soul. And yes, they are the backbone, right? Because there's how many people have we seen like go from, like I look at like Jared Lujan, right? Like he like coming from Kickstarter to indie publishers to now he's got an Image short coming soon, and like to like watch these guys like grow.
This is a milestone too, I think.
Yeah, he did the Milestone Initiative with DC. Yeah, so he's got eventually something's going to come, from that. Like that's all trickling out. But yeah, so like, just it's so cool. And yeah, like I said, sorry for rambling, but yeah, I will always love the indie community.
It's a pretty good ramble as far as I'm concerned.
But I just but Benjamin, like you're the same, man. Like you've been there to support my channel and support Blake's Buzz, and like so many of you all have, and so like I'm not ignorant to the fact that like I would not be here if it wasn't for the love and support that largely the indie community has given me, and I'll remember that forever. I'll remember that till my brain quits working and I can't remember anything anymore, right? Like I'll always remember that and be appreciative. So anyway, off my soapbox, getting all emotional and shit, but yeah, I just want to remind everybody that Benjamin makes awesome comics. There is a campaign that has 72 hours left on Zoop, and it's definitely worth your time, and it's worth checking out. And I definitely recommend checking out Captain August and his adventure. And keep a lookout for that trade, keep a lookout for the singles, and keep an eye on Benjamin. Check out his YouTube channel. He is doing some cool stuff, like celebrating the history of comics, talking about art. You can learn some cool shit watching Ben on YouTube, so definitely check that out. Ben, unless you have anything else to say, no. I'm gonna play the music and wrap it up. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
All right, baby. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming back on our show. Viewers, thank you for listening. If you checked out Ben's campaign, thank you for doing that. If you backed it, thank you twice. Love more, hate less, read comics. Keep an eye out on my channel. I got some cool stuff coming over the next couple weeks, and yeah, we'll see you on Wednesday, doing a live show Wednesday. We'll be back.
All right. Blake, thanks for everything.
It's Blake's Buzz Live.
I don't know what happened.
No. I took my screen share away. I think I undid your outro.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how I have permission to do that.
Post
credit scene, everybody.
Yeah, it's like the MCU deleted scene.
Yeah,
Thanos is about to come back.
Check it out soon. This is the teaser.
All right, now we're leaving.